a lot of marquee matchups coming our way in week 1, but the game that I think is not getting talked about nearly enough is the mid-afternoon game down in Tallahassee between number 8 Alabama and Florida State. Two traditional powerhouses, both within their respective conferences and on the national stage, but two teams that are coming off very disappointing seasons by their standards. Alabama coming off a 9-4 season in year 1 under Kalen DeBoer, the first year that the Crimson Tide have not won 10 games since 2007. First time since 2007 they've won less than 10 games. Florida State, they went 13-1 in 2023. Controversially left out of the college football playoff. 2024, they go 2-10 with 7 losses by double digits. So both crazy disappointing seasons, although I'm sure Florida State would have killed to have had the season Alabama had. Both, I do think, will bounce back in 2025, but this will be a great measuring stick for both of these teams. And as we know, the loser of this game will feel like the sky is falling. And who's that going to be? We're going to break it down for you right now. Again, Alabama, Florida State here at the Gridiron Expert. Again, you've got the early afternoon game, you got Ohio State and Texas, and then you've got Alabama, Florida State, then you've got LSU and Clemson. Then Sunday, you've got Notre Dame, Miami. This game, because it's not a top 25 matchup, because it's not at a neutral site like a Chick-fil-A, Aflac, Kickoff Bowl, whatever the heck you want to call it, as actually a true home game for the Seminoles, I don't think people are paying nearly enough attention to it. But I look at the offense. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball, where both these teams are going to look drastically different. But for Alabama, all eyes certainly are going to be on the new quarterback, Ty Simpson. Junior quarterback finally gets his chance with the Crimson Tide. He waited for a couple years, sat behind Jalen Milroe, finally getting his shot in Kalen DeBoer's offense, more specifically Ryan Grubb's offense. Ryan Grubb comes in now. He and DeBoer were phenomenal together at Washington, weren't together last year. They are now, and I think Ty Simpson's going to do very well with this talented team that he has surrounding him. I think Simpson's got a good arm. He's got an accurate arm. I think if you're an Alabama fan, you shouldn't, I don't know what people are just saying in Tuscaloosa, but I wouldn't be that concerned with Ty Simpson. I feel very confident in his abilities to lead Alabama to the college football playoff, possibly, right? He's got a great supporting cast around him. You've got your top 2 pass catchers from last year returning, and Ryan Williams, who had over 800 yards and 8 touchdowns last year. Jeremy Bernard is back after nearly an 800-yard season and 2 touchdowns. They add Isaiah Horton in from Miami. They've got Jam Miller coming back at running back after rushing for over 660 yards and 7 touchdowns. And they have 4 starters back on the offensive line. So a new offensive coordinator that I think is going to really revamp this team. A very high potential quarterback, 2 fantastic receivers, a strong offensive line. Alabama's offense has a chance to be really, really special in 2025. But obviously with a new quarterback in Simpson starting in a true road environment in Tallahassee that is going to be very electric, very excited. That's not easy. So that's something what we're going to be watching out for. How does he handle that pressure and handle that tough of an environment? Because we know, Tallahassee's a tough place to play, but in my opinion, going to be nothing like some of the SEC environments he'll face later on in the year. Florida State, on the other hand, look, their offense was atrocious last year. The Seminoles averaged a whopping 15.4 points per game last year. 270 yards per game is all they averaged. And Mike Norvell, basically said, forget this, man. We are completely revamping the team, not just from a roster standpoint, because we saw last year the offensive line was bad. DJ Uiagalelei did not pan out. He's revamped the roster. He revamped the coaching staff. Gus Malzahn stepping down as head coach at UCF, now the offensive coordinator for the Seminoles. Fantastic hire. I know a lot of people, maybe weren't thrilled with Gus Malzahn as a head coach, whether it was during his time at Auburn, whether it was time at UCF, but he's familiar with Alabama a little bit. And obviously one of the better offensive minds in the game of college football. I think an offensive coordinator position may be a better fit for him than a head coaching position. So now you look at this. New offensive coordinator that's competent, that's actually going to do something here. They've got a veteran quarterback in Thomas Castellanos transferring in from Boston College, over 3,600 passing yards, over 1,300 rushing yards in 2 years with the Eagles, so that's huge, right? He needs to cut down on his interceptions. He needs to cut down on his decision-making or make better decisions. But his dual threat ability is something I'm going to be watching very closely in this game. The running backs of Florida State have a lot of potential. Roydell Williams, former Alabama running back, is here again with the Seminoles this year. Cam Davis, Gavin Sawchuk transferring in from Oklahoma. The wide receivers bring in Squirrel Wright from Tennessee, where he had over 1,500 reception yards in 3 years with the Volunteers. Deuce Robinson comes in from UCF, and the offensive line has 129 career starts up front and will improve drastically after giving up 49 sacks last year. those numbers won't only improve because the offensive line will be better, but it will also improve because Castellanos is a lot more mobile than any of the quarterbacks that Florida State had on their roster last year as well. So that's going to help himself elude some sacks, hopefully elude some negative plays. So this Florida State offense, as bad as it was last year, is going to look nothing like it did last year. The kicker is Castellanos, who feels very confident they can beat Alabama, kind of talking some smack throughout this offseason, saying, yeah, that's not the old Alabama. This isn't Nick Saban's Alabama. We're fine. We're not really as scared of them as maybe someone would have been in the past, which I'm sure is going to add a lot of fuel to Kalen DeBoer's fire and Crimson Tide's fire. But this team has the talent to drastically improve. 15 points per game last year could easily get up to 28. I mean, you could see almost a 2-touchdown improvement. I would not be surprised to see that. The defense. Let's take a look. Alabama, what are they tasked with, right? Alabama's defense is now tasked with stopping Thomas Castellanos, trying to contain him to the pocket. I think they can maybe do that, right? 8 starters are back for the Crimson Tide on that side of the ball from a defense that was phenomenal last year. They had some down moments, right? I mean, giving up 40 points to Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt wasn't great. Getting shut down 24-3 against Oklahoma that cost them a playoff spot wasn't great. But this Alabama defense as a whole allowed just 17 points per game, only 182 passing yards per game. And they are loaded at all 3 levels defensively. LT Overton on the defensive line. Tim Keenan back on the defensive line. The linebackers, led by the second leading tackler on the team last year in Deontay Lawson and Justin Jefferson. The secondary, which we just mentioned, was so good, only 182 passing yards per game last year, pretty much returns intact. Damani Jackson returns. Zabian Brown returns. Bray Hubbard led the team with 3 interceptions last year. Keon Sabb returns. This is one of the best secondaries in the country. This is one of the best defenses in the country. And so what I'm going to be watching out for Alabama, we know defense can travel here. If Ty Simpson struggles a little bit, the defense is going to have to step it up. And I believe they can do that. If they can contain Thomas Castellanos to the pocket, not allow him to escape, extend plays, pick up first downs with his legs, if they can contain him to the pocket and force him to win the game through the air, Alabama's going to be just fine. Because the secondary is so dang good. The Seminoles have so many new pieces that I do think Castellanos will struggle if he's not able to use his legs. And I think that's going to be a big focal point for this Alabama defense heading in to Saturday afternoon. Florida State, on the other hand, they've got a new defensive coordinator. So we mentioned Mike Norvell was, livid after how bad last year went. 2-10. Rosters revamped. Coaching staff revamped. Gus Malzahn is the new offensive coordinator. Tony White is the new defensive coordinator. He has had 4 straight top 25 defenses during his stops with Syracuse and most recently Nebraska. So that's a pretty impressive feat. 4 straight top 25 defenses with Syracuse and Nebraska. And Florida State, as we know, needs a lot of help on the defensive side of the ball. Their numbers were not good last year. They gave over 185 rushing yards per game last season. The offense couldn't do anything, and I think that's one of the reasons their stats were so bad, right? The team wasn't good, but when your offense is constantly going 3 and out, they're constantly turning the ball over, things like that, the defense can only do so much, can only hold their ground for so long before they eventually cave. And those kind of coincide with each other. That's not going to happen again this year. Take a look at Florida State, though. 8 starters back on defense. Their top 2 tacklers do return. Their safety, Shaheem Brown, returns. Their linebacker, Blake Nicholson, returns. The defensive line, I like it quite a bit. Darrell Jackson, Daniel Lyons, going to kind of anchor that defensive front. The linebacking core is solid and very deep. A lot of talent there. We mentioned Nicholson, who was second on the team in tackles last year. Also have Omar Graham. The secondary only gave up a little over 200 passing yards per game last year. And we mentioned they returned Shaheem Brown, and they returned a handful of other starters as well. So this team is not nearly as loaded as Alabama at all 3 levels, but they don't really have any huge, glaring question marks. A few minor ones, but nothing dire. The key for them is really going to be to rattle Ty Simpson early. You've got a guy that really hasn't had much playing experience, now tasked as the full-time starting quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide, who is coming off a very disappointing season by their standards, just 9-4. An 0-1 start, losing to Florida State, would send Tuscaloosa into a tailspin, especially considering the brutal SEC schedule they have. They kind of have to win this game. This is a bigger game for Alabama, I feel like, than Florida State. So if the Seminoles want to pull off this upset, if you can rattle this quarterback early, get after him, force him into second and third and long situations, force a couple mistakes off of him, make him just kind of confused and out of sorts, Florida State's going to find themselves in this game. That's if they can do that. That's what they've got to do defensively. Get after Ty Simpson and make him uncomfortable. Defense has to do that. The home crowd has to do that. Again, I just mentioned, I feel like this is a bigger game for Alabama. Alabama has college football playoff aspirations this year. Florida State does not. I don't feel the Seminoles have the roster to go from 2-10 to true ACC title or playoff contenders. It's just not going to happen. So this is a game where, you look at Florida State. If you win, great, good for you, massive upset. If you lose, the sky isn't falling. The season is not over because the expectations for Florida State are probably anywhere from 7 to 9 wins. Really, they just need to hope to get back to a bowl game. For Alabama, though, again, you lose the season opener, you still have brutal games down the stretch. You still got to go on the road to Georgia. You still got to play Auburn. You still got to play LSU. You still got to play Oklahoma. Got to go on the road to South Carolina. So many tough games for the Crimson Tide. You've got to take care of business here. And I think they do. As nearly a 2-touchdown favorite, I do believe Alabama wins this game by double digits. The Seminoles will come out strong. They'll throw a few punches. They're going to be hanging around early. But Alabama's defense is going to make some big-time plays. They're going to rattle Thomas Castellanos, going to make him eat his words from what he said the last few months. Alabama is better on both sides of the ball. I believe they're better from a coaching standpoint as well. I would take Kalen DeBoer over Mike Norvell any day. The Crimson Tide come into Tallahassee. Maybe a game that's close for the first half. They pull away in the second. Alabama 1-0, Florida State 0-1. Sky is not falling by any means. They will be just fine. They will make a bowl game. But as Alabama, they get their major resume-boosting win and maybe calms things down a little bit in Tuscaloosa, at least for a few weeks. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to those expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. We're going to have spread picks on all of these games over on our website, so do not miss out on those. A link for that down in the description below, along with our weekly newsletters as well. Tons of exclusive content there for you to check out so you can become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.